I've done a quick introduction about myself. I'm Ace. This is my Twitter handle. So if you have any question, if you want to reach out to me, it's easier to reach out to me via Twitter. So in today's webinar, in today's section, we're gonna be talking about how you can go from 0 to hero with AsyncAPI. But before we get started, I mean, the question is why? Why should we want to do this? Why this talk, right? And I love starting my talk or my presentations with why. Why is in KPI? But the question actually dips down to why event-driven architecture, right? Not just why is in KPI. The question is why event-driven architecture. So event-driven architecture has been gaining more popularity. Okay, just to let you know, event-driven architecture is not a new thing. It's been around for a while, right? But it's starting to gain more popularity between developers and architects, right? And simply because businesses demand real-time data to make real-time decisions. So that is the answer to this why. Why using KPI in the first place? So what is this in KPI? And yeah, so my go-to answer to this question is async API is open API, but for asynchronous APIs. And I know the question might sound, the answer might sound confusing. So this is the easiest way to explain or to define what async API is, right? We all know, if you're familiar with Open API, or as popularly known as Swagger, we all know Open API is used to like document your REST APIs, right? So that is exactly what async API does, but for asynchronous APIs, right? So async API describes describes asynchronous APIs, not REST APIs. Well, it can also define and describe REST API, but it is mostly used for asynchronous APIs. So in order not for us to like have these me just showing you folks slide and slide and slide after slide, today I'm gonna actually do a quick demo of how to get started for using async API, which is the reason why the talk is actually titled 0 to hero. So the use case. So let's say we have this simple use case, right? Which is the let's say an account. We have 3 different services, right? We have account service, we have email service, and we have the log service, right? And these 3 services need to communicate with each other, which basically means, let's say, when a user sign up on the account service, we send an information, or we send an event to the email service, and the email service does whatever it is it wants to do with the user information. And also, we also send a log event, which basically means we try to like keep track of what of everything that is actually happening on the account service. So we actually keep track of that also in the log service. So this is the use case. I mean, but you might actually think, well, we already have the whole architecture, so I mean, we can just start building, right? But there is actually a problem. And the problem is you can't just, I mean, you can eventually start building because you already have the whole plan, you already have the whole architecture in place. But I would definitely tell you, you can't just go start building, right? Not so fast, because there are strong reasons behind not doing this, right? So one thing you have to understand is account service, email service, and log service are loosely coupled, right? So they are not tight coupled, they are loosely coupled. Account service is on its own. We have log service on its own. We have email service on its own. So these are different services, right? They are loosely coupled and they are potentially built, operated, and maintained by separate teams, right? So the team actually maintaining account service is different, and the team maintaining email service is different, and the team also maintaining log service is also different. So what this basically means is these 3 services, we have their own context boundaries defined, right? All teams must explicitly define any information exchanges across these boundaries. For example, all teams will maintain broker configurations, topics, and interplays, right? Otherwise, maintaining the solution would become a nightmare in the long run. So, which is basically where async API comes into play, right? So let's get started. So I already explained the problem, which is why I forgot to like go to the next slide. So the problem is I just explained the problem why we can't just get started because these different services are loosely coupled, right? They are not tight coupled. So the solution is actually the AsyncAPI specification. So let's go. So I'm going to like quickly give you some of the purposes of using AsyncAPI. So you can see the purpose of using the AsyncAPI includes event-driven microservices, which is an example of this architecture we have here. So event-driven microservices, Internet of Things, streaming APIs, and pretty much anything that is message-based or event-based. One of the interesting things about AsyncAPI is it is actually protocol agnostic. So unlike OpenAPI, where you can only use HTTP in OpenAPI, API is different. You can actually use any protocol in AsyncAPI, AMQP, Kafka, WebSockets, MQTT, HTTP, mention it, any protocol. AsyncAPI support is out of the box. So I'm going to go through the basic structure of an AsyncAPI file. So as you can see, we have 4 different structures. We have the info, we have servers, and we have components. So let's go into the first one, which is the application information. The info, like you can see, the info object is a placeholder where you can define information about your application. So the info object is where you have every important, every needed information about your application or your API or your system. And the next one is we have servers. The servers object is a placeholder where you can define information about the server where your consumers can interact with your application. So as you all see, an example is we have the server object, the server type. For instance, this is a test server, and we have the URL, we have the protocol, in this case, MQTT, Mosquito. We have the protocol version, we have the description where we describe our server. And so you can see it is actually servers, not server, which basically means we can actually have multiple server, right? We can have a production server, we can have a development server, we can have any amount of server in our application. So next we have communication channels. We have channels, right? The channel object, like you can see, the channel object is a chunk of a AsyncAPI document. Channels are also known as topics or routing keys, depending on the protocol you choose for communication. Which basically means I think it's different for Kafka, it's different from MQTT. So you have to be familiar with how it is being defined for whichever protocol it is you are using for your application. So this is an example. So we're going to go through an interactive session, an interactive walkthrough after this slide presentation. So we also have the operations and messages, and you can see every channel can have 2 operations. So it can be published, it can be subscribed, right? So they define what the consumer can do. So let me put this into a familiar perspective, right? So if you're familiar with OpenAPI or Swagger, so when you have a Swagger documentation of an API you want to interact with, so you have like these different operations. So you have like get, you have pull, you have post. You have get, you have post, you have delete, you have different actions, right? So the same thing applies to the AsyncAPI document, right? So we have publish and we have subscribe. So unlike OpenAPI where we have so many actions, AsyncAPI only has publish and subscribe, which is the most popular and most common thing when it comes to event-based systems. Pops up. So it also consists of headers, just like the way OpenAPI also has like header in their actions. So the operations also like consist of headers where you can pass header payloads. Then we have component. In cases where you don't want to repeat yourself, so we actually have a reusable component. So the component object is a placeholder for various reusable pieces of the document. So this helps you reduce repetition in this API document and make it more modular, easy to maintain, and less error prone. So this is the simple introduction to the AsyncAPI document. So we're gonna get started. We're gonna set up a simple use case, work on a simple use case like the one we have here where we have the account service, we have this middle one is actually the broker. So we have the email service and we have the log service. So we're going to work on the simple use case. So let's get started. If you have any question, please feel free to leave it in the comments so I can answer. Okay, so I'm going to set up a new VS Code file. So give me a few seconds, please. Hey, okay, so I'm going to change my screen and start sharing my VS Code. So can you confirm if you can see my VS Code, Mark?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, so based on the use case I showed you earlier, so we have account service, we have email service, and we have log service. But for the sake of this presentation, we are only going to go through these only two services, unlike three. So we are only going to focus on account service and email service. But yeah, so the same thing applies if you're gonna have an extra service, right? So it doesn't matter if you want to have a catalog service based on the system you're trying to like build. So let's create the Fabric first service. So we're gonna say, let's just call it account service. So in the account service, the first thing we have to do is describe our AsyncAPI file. So we create a new file, say AsyncAPI.yaml. So our AsyncAPI file is a YAML file. So it doesn't matter, but I mean you can actually use JSON. But for this example, I'm going to be using YAML. So and based on the structure I shared with you all earlier, it's the same structure we are going to be following in this example also. So if you can recollect, we have the info, we have the channels object, we have the servers object, we have the component object. So we are basically going to be using all of these components all together in this example. So we have to describe our account service. So we could start writing our requirements, our documents right now. But I think one thing I love doing is actually using the AsyncAPI Studio. Okay, I'm gonna share my browser again. I'm sorry, I'm sharing a lot of stuff, so just keep with me. So I'm going to share the AsyncAPI Studio. Yeah, so the AsyncAPI Studio has a lot of examples if you want to easily get yourself familiar with the AsyncAPI file or what the AsyncAPI structure, the file structure looks like. So if you come here to this, we have a lot of interesting examples. We have MQTT examples, IBM MQ, whatever protocol it is you want to have. So we're not using any of these examples. We are starting from scratch, right? We're going to define or construct our whole document based on what our application requires. So the first thing we have to do, right, is sorry, I have to move this. Define what version of AsyncAPI file, the AsyncAPI spec are we using, right? So we're going to be using the AsyncAPI version 2.6. So this is the first thing we have to do. We have to you have to like define what AsyncAPI version you want to use. I mean, if you're coming from the world of Swagger or OpenAPI, you're already familiar with how this thing works. So we define the AsyncAPI version, and the next thing we have to do based on what I shared earlier is the info, right? So we say this is the four major component that makes up this API file. So we have the info, right? Which means the first thing we have to define is the info object. And the info object is basically the information about our application. So we're gonna go right there and start describing the info object. So we create a new object called info, and then the title. So we're gonna call this. I mean, the title is actually tied to the title of our application. I mean, what our application is about. So we're gonna say account service. Right. So the next thing we have to do is the version. So this version we are describing now is not actually the version of the AsyncAPI spec, but the version of our application or our API. So we have the version, and let's say this is version 1.0. So this could be any version, depending on what it is you're doing or what version your application or system is. So the next thing we have to do is description. So what's the description of our application? So we'll just say this is the account service API, or let's say application, right? So this is enough information about our API, or our application. But you can have much more, like you can see. You can have the title, version, description. You can also have the contact, like here. You can also include the license. But for today, we're not going to include all of that. So we're just going to move to the next thing. So next thing, based on the based on the presentation, is the server's information. So we have to describe what server our application will be using. So we have to go back to Studio. So Studio, then we describe servers, right? Then the next thing we have to do based on this presentation, as you can see, is to describe what kind of server it is you are describing. So for our use case, we're just going to say development. We can just say development. So this is a development server. So we go back to the presentation. You can see. So we have to describe the URL to the server, which is also like the broker, the protocol, the protocol version, description of the server. So we just go ahead and have all of those in place. So we just have to say the URL we're going to be using. So we're going to be using AMQP. So AMQP -- localhost, then the port. No, that's $sign, sorry. So this is the URL of the server we're going to be using. So we're using AMQP, and if you are familiar with RabbitMQ, so we're going to be using the AMQP Advanced Messaging Queuing Protocol. So we're going to define the protocol. Then we're going to say AMQP. So that's the protocol we're going to be using. So that is the protocol we're going to be using. Then we have to define the protocol version. So I have to define the AMQP version I want to use. So I'm going to just say 0.91. So this is the version I'm going to be using for this example. Okay, I think I made a typo. Version. Okay, so we have our initial server described. So okay, let's add a description. Oh no, I meant protocol version. Yeah. And so let's add a description. So let's just say this is our development server. So let's say this is our development server. Now let's add the ports that we want our server to be exposed to. So we're going to create a new variable. So let's see if we have these so we don't have it here, in the server information. But yes, so we can also have a variable where we can specify. So we have this local host, comma, and these curly braces of ports. So this port has to come from somewhere. So let's just create a variable. Then the ports. So we create in num. So we're gonna specify a list of ports that we want our server to use. So you can just have one, but I'm gonna have two in this case. So I'm using a YAML. You can actually use JSON. I mean, JSON is really easier and faster than YAML. So we can just like say port 15672. So if you're actually familiar with AMQP, you know, these are some of the ports that are available locally. I mean, you can actually reconfigure it's your own test. So I'm going to be using the default available ports. Then we say 5672. So we have our server already defined. So you can actually include more stuff based on, you can have security objects, but we're not going to be going deep into that. So yeah, the next thing we have to define based on the presentation is the channels. So we have to start working on the channels. So what do? We go back to our studio. Then we define channels. So the channels, now we have to say, okay, the account service, what do we want to do? So we first want to describe user sign up. So if you go back to our drawing, our use case, so we have this account service and we have this email service. So let's say we want to have how do I text box. Okay, just give me a few seconds. User sign up. User/sign up. Let's change it to white to make it more visible. Let's increase it. Okay. So let's say this is what we want to monitor. So we have the account service, of course, entails stuff that is related to users. So let's say we want to send an email whenever a user signs up, right? So which means user/sign up, which means whenever we have a new user, whenever a new user sign up, we want to take this event and send it to the email service, right? So that is what we are doing. So when the account service sends this image, so in this case, the account service is actually the publisher, right? So the account service is publishing. So whenever a new user signs up to our application, the account service sends an event that is, it's called user/sign up, send it to the broker. So this is the broker, and in our own case, we are using AMQP as our broker. So let's just call this AMQP. So just for illustration purpose. So we have AMQP as our broker. So whenever we have this event, user/sign up. So in this case, the account service is a publisher. The account service is publishing an event called user/sign up to the broker, this AMQP, like we have in our server, which is our server. So send this to this account service, sends it to AMQP, and AMQP, then the email service is actually looking for this event, right? Which says the email service is, okay, whenever a new user signs up, let me know because I need to do something, which means I need to like send an email to the user. So which basically means this account service needs to consist of of a data, this event, right? We consist of the name, let's say username, right? Email, email, and so let's just keep it this way. Let's say then the user slash sign up event actually has his data, username and email. So which basically means when the account service sends this event, you just sign up to the broker, the email service that is looking for this event, we get it, right? And once it gets this event, when this event gets to this email service, then the email service does whatever it is it needs to the event. So what we're gonna do now is to describe this channel, right? This method or whatever it is you want to call it in your case. So let's go back to studio. So we have the channel. So the first channel we want to describe is actually the user/sign up, right? So user/sign up is the channel. So the events, the email service would actually subscribe to this channel, this user/sign up, because based on what I demoed, what I illustrated the other time, account service sends it to the broker, then the email service retrieves from the broker. So in our account service, we have user/sign up. Then what do we do? What operation? Like I said earlier, the account service is publishing, right? So the account service is publishing this to the email service. So I made a mistake. So it's not actually publishing to the email service, right? The account service is actually just sending it to the broker. So the account service is not aware of the email service or of the log service, because I said earlier they are loosely coupled, so they are not actually dependent on each other. So the account service is not actually aware of the email service. The account service is just sending this user sign up payload to the broker, right? And the email service is the one interested. Then the email service is going to tell the broker, hey, I'm interested in this channel. So whatever payload, whatever data is sent to this channel, please send it to me, right? So this is what is happening. So then we have to just do it. So we have to say subscribe. Now, this actually brings a question. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake. So why subscribe, right? I mean, I was saying publish account service, right? And we are actually describing our account service document, right? But in this place, I have subscribe. I mean, then isn't that the opposite of what I'm saying? So why we have subscribe here? So why we have subscribe here instead of publish is actually because the document, the AsyncAPI document is actually from the client's perspective. So whoever is going to be using this document, in our case, which is the events, the email service. So in our case, which is the email service is the one going to be needing this document to interact with the account service, right? So we have subscribe. So what that means is the email service has to subscribe to this channel. Like I said earlier, the email service has to subscribe to this channel in the broker, right? Saying, okay, if any data coming from account service enters you and has this user/sign up, I'm interested. I'm subscribing. Send it to me, right? So what this means is the email service is subscribing. So the email service has to subscribe to the account service. So that means the account service is publishing. So, I mean, we get a lot of that confusion. So, I mean, you say subscribe, you get published. So this document is actually from the consumer perspective, not the producer. So that's why we have subscribe, because the consumer has to subscribe to get the user information. So, but a lot of this thing is going to be, so we are ending this in version 3. So the AsyncAPI version 3 is actually coming, which will be announced next month. So with the account service, with the version 3, right, we don't have the confusion of publish, subscribe would be eliminated. We're just going to have action and send. So in AsyncAPI version 3, we're going to have just send and receive. And it's not going to be from the consumer perspective anymore. It's going to be actually from the producer's perspective, right? The application perspective. So in this case, if it is version 3, if we're actually using the AsyncAPI version 3, we are going to have send, because the account service is the one sending. So we are not actually, the confusion would be eliminated. But since we're in version 2.6, we're going to have subscribe, which basically means account service is the one published. So if you want to interact with these users that sign up, you have to subscribe. So if I'm going too fast, please let me know so I can like slow down a bit. If you have any question, please feel free to like drop in the comment section. So we have subscribe, which means subscribe. I'm gonna quickly round this up. So subscribe. So we also like have operation ID. So like I said, so let me just share the channel. So you can see we have the channel already defined. You can have the summary, you can have description. So subscribe. So let's just have the operation ID. So let's just say user sign up. Then we can have the description. The description, let's just say sign up events. So let's say user sign up event. So we can just have based on whatever it is. So this description is just for the demo purpose. So the next thing we have here in the demo is actually, if you look at it very well, so we have the subscribe. Oh no, so sorry. This shouldn't be under the subscribe. This should be here. So because if you look at it, okay, so we have the details of the channel. So we have to like change it. What I'm defining here is actually for this one, not under the operation. Yeah, more. Okay, so then we move this one. This one is supposed to be here. Okay. No, sorry. This has to be a string, not. Okay, so as you can see, the reason why I'm using Studio is for you to see the document that has been generated in real time. So as I'm writing my AsyncAPI file, I'm getting this document like generated in real time. So just in case you see subscribe here and you are saying publish in this operation, so there's actually a bug we plan on fixing, which actually broke because of the version 3. So this is pub. This should be solved, not pub. So just ignore this. So we have the operation ID. So the next thing we want to do is define the message. So what kind of message it is we are expecting. So I already mentioned it here. See, as you can see in this place, we have the operation ID, we have description. In our case, we're not using description. Then the next thing is message. So we have to define the message, the operation message. Then we have the message. So it's important the message name. Say user sign up. Then the message ID. Let's say user sign up again. I mean, you can just choose whatever it is that matches what you're doing. So mistake. Okay. Formatting mistakes. Sorry. So we have the message ID. So the next one we have to define, the payload, right? So as you can see here, so we also have message. Then we have headers. We have payload. So we have to define the message payload. Then we define the message payload. So we already saw in our case the payload that the message is gonna consist of. I showed you all earlier, which is the username and the email, right? This is the payload. So we have, let's just define the payload. Username, we have to define the type, which is a string. So let's say email. So just say type of string for now. We can have So the next thing we want to do, so we have our first operation already described, right? So we have user sign up, which has published. So you understand when I say publish. So account service is publishing. So whoever needs this has to subscribe. We have the operation ID. We have the message. So the message, the event that is sending, which is the message. So the event actually has a payload of username and email. So if you come here in the document generated, you can see it has it has sent the following message. You just sign up with the message ID. You just sign up, and the payload type. Okay, this is now working. I think, sorry, I think I might have made an error in the payload aspect. Let's say type. Okay, so type. So I'm defining the payload. I forgot to add the payload type. So the payload type is an object, right? So the payload type is an object. Then I have to say properties. Then I can now paste this. Oh, sorry, pasted the wrong thing. Then I can say the properties is username, right? With the type string. Then I can say email with the type email. Okay, what happened? Properties, username, type string. So email. Okay. Let's see. Hmm. Message property must have one of. This is really not supposed to be happening. Payload type of object. So why is it saying not supposed to be? Okay, let's say we have email. Type string, username, type string. Oh, okay. So the mistake I made was I wasn't supposed to have type email. It's supposed to be type string. Then we should have formats. Email, not type email. So the type should be string, but the format should be email. So if we go back to the examples earlier, so when you click expand, you can see then we have this example generated for us automatically. So let's just leave it here. So we're not gonna have the component section because the whole point of having the component is if we have reusable parts in our document, right? So let's say we in this payload section, we want to like reuse it somewhere else, then we have to like put this in components. So we say we define the component level, component, then we say message, then under the message, we have the message type, then have the payload. So since we're not using the components, any component, any reusable objects here, we're just gonna skip the components part. So we have our simple AsyncAPI file. We have the informal parts. We have the server where we define our development server. Then we have our channel where we are publishing an event here, right here. So the message, the payload type, properties, email, and username, right? So what we want to do now, right? I mean, you may say, okay, we are done like describing our account service. So how do we use it? So AsyncAPI has really so many interesting tools, like code generators and these documentation generators, and so many awesome tools, right? So today we're going to be using the code generator. So we're going to generate code that would help us bootstrap our account service system without us having to like set up the whole thing ourselves, like setting up the development environment and so. So the code generator is going to take this SQL file and generate it based on the based on the language we want to use. So or library it is that you want to use. So today we're going to use Node.js and we're going to generate a quick code for getting started. So we can actually generate our code using Studio, like directly from the browser, right? All we just have to do is click here, generate code /docs. Right, so select the kind of code it is you want to generate. We're just going to say Node.js project, right? Select server. So we're going to choose the first server, which is 0. I mean, it would be cool if it could retrieve the server name. I mean, that's actually an interesting feature. 0. Then show advanced options. Let's see. So no, we don't need any of this. Then we just click generate, and Studio generates the code for us. Couldn't find server name 0. What does it mean couldn't find server name 0? Okay, let's see. Server name isn't 0. Generate code as YAML. See again, the JS. Okay, saying couldn't find server name 0. So I think there's actually something wrong with the Studio because this should be an issue with Studio. I'll probably open an issue for someone to look into it. So Studio failed. So let's just use the AsyncAPI this generator to generate it. So I'm gonna share my VS Code. So I'm gonna take this whole thing, right? Copy it. Go to my VS Code. Yeah, go to my VS Code and paste it. So save it. Then I'm going to generate the code from here. So in order to generate my code, you can actually use the AsyncAPI CLI, but I'm not going to be using the AsyncAPI CLI today. I'm just going to be using this. So this API, let's say AsyncAPI, also AsyncAPI CLI. So I'm just going to say AsyncAPI generates from templates. Then I'm going to choose the directory of what I'm choosing. Okay, instead, let me first navigate into the account service. Okay, so in the account service folder, I'm just going to generate my code by saying AsyncAPI. AsyncAPI generates from templates. Then I'm going to like sell from template. I have to like point to the CLI that I want it to generate from the AsyncAPI.yaml. Just slash AsyncAPI.yaml. Uh, then I'm going to like specify the template I'm going to use. Then I'm going to say AsyncAPI slash Node.js templates. So this is actually an npm package. So Node.js template. So I want the output to be in this same directory. Then I want to point to the uh, server equals development. Then enter. So let's see. So it says this directory is not empty. But I'm gonna do that anyways because I have to like force it. So it's mostly advisable to generate your code in a new directory. Okay, so let's see. So because I don't want to put it in a new folder, I just want to use it in this same folder where I have my AsyncAPI file. So I'm just gonna generate it. So let's see. We're generating our Node.js code. It'll take a few seconds. So fingers crossed. Okay, so Ricardo said maybe you need to define the prop name in the server description. So do you mean when I was trying to like generate via the studio? Okay. Oh yeah, I mean that should be an issue from the studio, because that is the name of my server. So I don't think studio was retrieving the name for some reason. I'll probably open an issue after this call so someone can look into it. So if you're also interested in contributing, I mean we appreciate contributions. So we have this code generated. Voila. So we have this O code, like this O code generated for us. So if you go to the source, we have this library, we have this config, we have every single thing we need for our service to start working, right? So what do we next thing we have to do is do npm install, of course. So because we have a package.json, so we do npm install. We have to install all necessary packages. Installing. Let's see. If you have any question, please kindly ask. So we have all these things, all these packages installed, and then we can start our service, right? Our backend service. So let's say npm run start. Let's say, I mean, we can probably get an error. Okay, it's broken. npm. Why is it ending? Okay, just for fun, let's use Nodemon. I mean, this is only executing once, so let's install Nodemon. So this is Nodemon instead of Node. Okay, so we have account service running. Let's see. Let's look at the config. Heal pod. So I mean, so I need to see if my AMQ, my RabbitMQ is currently working. So I have to like test it. Um, sorry. Hold on. Chrome. Okay. We're running out of time. So let's see if you can quickly have this working. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to like bootstrap my AMKP, my Rabbit MQ. The compose up. Hmm. Systems connect. Okay. Come on. So I'm trying to like bootstrap my Docker. Seems it's not running. So let's start Docker. Okay, in a few seconds, Docker will be up and running now. So I'm starting the Docker engine. I should have done all of this before the live stream. I totally forgot. I'm sorry. Okay. Hey, in a few seconds, we'll be good to go. Okay. Hey, come on, come on. Hey, I mean, it's taking so much time to like bootstrap. I don't know. I mean, it's probably my network. It's not as fast as I imagine. It's not bootstrapping. Okay, I mean, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna explain it by so I mean the whole idea is so we have the code generated. So once I have the code generated, I just have to like make some changes in the config.yaml file, the common.yaml under the config, which is so I just have to like include the username and password for my broker, which is for my RabbitMQ, and then we'll be good to go. But then we already have this code generated for us by AsyncAPI and code generator, Node.js code. Then we can just easily start implementing our business logic, right? And then in order to start implementing our business logic, we have to come to this API section. We come to the handler, then we have the user sign up, right? So this is where no, not this one. Yeah, it's this one. Middleware function, push middleware. Okay, sorry, a route. So this is where we come, not handler. So we come to the user sign up route. So this is where we are gonna be publishing the the user information, right? So we will see once we do this, we just come here and publish our data, our user sign up event, and then whoever it is that is going to like consume it, which is the event in this case, that's the email service. The email service will receive the user sign up. But in order to have the email service, we also have to like describe the email services in KPI file because, like I said earlier, we have to. The KPI file is actually. Let me quickly pull up the browser. Let's say Brave. Yeah. So like I said earlier, I said AsyncAPI profile. Yeah. So I said earlier, I said, can you see my screen? Oh, I'm showing the wrong screen. Sorry. Stop share, not this one. So like I said earlier, like, so if you want to, so we have the account service code generated. We let's say I have my Docker running, and for some reason Docker is not booting. So let's say we have the Docker up and running, then we can then start describing the one for the email service, which is basically similar to what we're going to be doing here. But in the email service, we are not going to have so in the email service, what you just have to do is subscribe to the account service users that sign up channel just to receive events. So I'm so sorry I couldn't like show you the complete demo of what we are supposed to like get. So Docker is still not booting for some weird reason. So let's say we have our broker up and running, RabbitMQ. I could definitely show you how where we like send the we save it on the email service, but it's not button for some reason. So yeah, if you have any question, please let me know. So if there's a question, okay, I think there's a question. Okay, no question. So if you have a question, please, it's time for you to let me know. Okay, so if there is no question, I'm just going to like use the opportunity to complete the presentation. So a quick one about the initiative, this KPI initiative. We are a very vibrant community of designers, developers, and technical writers. We have so many interesting folks in the community. So we are also like its specification doesn't just work with brokers. It's also like compatible with cloud events and so on. So we have so many interesting tools. We have new tools like Glee. We have Studio like I used to demo, and we have the AsyncAPI, CLI. So I'm just gonna skip through go to our vision because I'm actually out of time. Our vision is to become the #1 API specification for defining and developing APIs. So our sponsors, we have so many incredible sponsors. So the next one is mentorship program. So we participate in a lot of mentorship programs. We participate in Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Dogs, and our own in-house mentorship program. So if you're interested in participating, feel free to join us on Slack or reach out to me via Twitter. So you can join us on GitHub, Slack, Twitter, on LinkedIn. We are super actively active. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'm so sorry I couldn't demo the end of the its account service. We actually built due to an unforeseen circumstances. But yeah, if you still want me to like if you want me to like hop on a call one-on-one with you and do a full presentation, a full demo where I will have everything working, I'm also willing to do that. So yeah, I mean, that would be everything from my end.
Thank you, X. I think Mark to leave. I don't know if there is any questions behind.
Okay, I think there is a question. Okay, Olivia Mas. Oh, thank you. Sounds good. I want to try to WebSocket with fast API frame. Yeah, definitely. You should definitely try to fast with WebSocket. So interesting. I mean, it would really. I had a demo once where I was in fast API, and it works really seamlessly. And also, you should definitely look at Glee, which is one of the new AsyncAPI tools with the Glee framework, which helps you like and it makes it faster for you to like get started when using WebSocket, not just WebSocket alone, any protocol. Thank you all. And I'm so sorry I couldn't demo the end of what we were building.
No worries. Thanks to everyone, and of course to you, Ace.
Yes, we have a question.
Yes,
Ricardo,
Ricardo.
Ricardo Martinez. Yes, we can actually run it on Raspberry Pi. But I think you would have to use MQTT Mosquito as a broker. I think that is the most common one when working with IoT. Does that answer your question, Ricardo? Okay, nice. Thanks.